Hi, this is Greg Fitzsimmons, and right now you're working out or you're walking your dog, or perhaps you're sitting in a chair with headphones on because it's that good. I don't know what you're currently doing. Perhaps you have no pants on, or you're staring at yourself in the mirror and asking questions. How did I get here? Jim on Bass has all the answers. It's here for you.
The Jim on Bass Show has teamed up with my new friends at Old Hillside Bourbon Company. I got two of my favorite bottles here, Straight Bourbon Whiskey and the Straight Rye Whiskey. So whenever you want to get on base with that authentic Kentucky bourbon taste, make sure you visit oldhillsidebourboncompany.com, their social media, Old Hillside CO, or pick up a bottle at Bevmo and Total Wine. Old Hillside Bourbon Company. They'll always get you on base. Welcome back to another episode of the Jim on Bass Show. For today's very special guest, we have one of my favorite stand-up comedians on. He's a multiple Emmy Award winner. He's also an author and a host of his own podcasts. You've seen and heard him on the Howard Stern Show as well. Please welcome the great Greg Fitzsimmons. Greg, thanks for coming on.
Well, Jim, it's good to be on. You're a good-looking man in San Francisco. Do you partake of both sides? Do you swing from both sides of the plate, or?
Actually, I'm only on one side of the plate. I'm as straight as they come, but you're making me question everything right now.
Well, you said come, and we were talking about men, and that was weird. That was a weird choice of words.
You caught me. I'm caught up.
So tell me about your studio. What's the setup there?
Well, you wouldn't know it, but this is the studio, and about 3 inches to the left is my bed. So it's an all-in-one.
Well, it's good. You're soundproofed if you want to get a little crazy in there.
Yeah.
Some guys really yell.
I had Adam Ray on. He was out of control.
Yeah.
Well, I was going to ask, I think you're in Atlanta tomorrow, right? So did you hit the road already, or are you at home right now?
No, I leave tomorrow morning, and I get to Atlanta, and then what do? I do one show, then I got to wake up the next morning at 7 a.m., which is 4 a.m. LA time, go do radio interviews, come home, self-soothe, take a nap, and then do 2 shows that night. No. Then I got to do Sunday papers. I got to record Sunday papers during the day, do 2 shows that night. Then Saturday, I'm writing a script with the guys, so we're going to have a 3-hour writing session. Then I'm going to listen to my sets from the night before, make notes, write new material, do 3 more shows Saturday night, and then get on a flight 7 a.m. on Sunday to come home again.
At what point does the cocaine come in?
The whole time. I'm the bear. I'm the cocaine bear. And, key bumps on the plane, and then what I do on stage is I mix it into my non-alcoholic beer. And you can drink cocaine.
It hits harder.
Yeah. No
hotel room key situations? That kind of holds it well.
Oh, that's a great idea. Yeah. That's a bigger key bump.
Yeah. Well, do you book your own flights? How does that work?
Yeah. Basically, the club, my agent talks to the club, and then they book the how much I'm getting paid for the week, which also has bonuses. So if I sell out the show, I get an extra check for that show. And then they give me just a flat amount of money for my flight. And then I book it myself.
Oh, okay.
And then either like the airport, once you get to the airport, some clubs will have like a nice SUV that picks you up, takes you to the hotel. And then other ones have like, you got to take an Uber yourself. And then the worst ones are they send like the sound guy or the door guy to pick you up in his like Kia Sportage, and the ashtray is spilling over, and he's listening to like country rap or some genre you've never heard of before.
And then he's talking to a relative in another language on speaker.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, of course. Achman.
Yeah. Well, are you able to check your bags now, or do you have it down to where you can just carry everything on? Or
I haven't checked a bag in 25 years. I get it. My packing takes me 7 to 8 minutes at home. My suitcase is in the corner. My toiletry bag is right there. I have speakers. Everything I have, my medication, it's all boom, 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 boom. It's in the overhead. And then I've got my bag on the plane. I sleep on flights. So I I have a neck pillow. I have a neck brace that keeps because the worst is your head falls forward when you're flying. So I have this thing with Velcro that wraps around under my chin. That's a neck brace. Then I have a neck pillow, and then I have an eye mask, and then I have ear headphones. I put the hood over the top. It's like a little mini suicide,
Yeah, I
and then
was
I
thinking
go
that.
down for 3 hours.
Now, do you take edibles too, or is it all
Yes,
natural?
there are
Okay.
edibles involved. Yeah.
Well, we are talking in the morning ish. It's 11 a.m. So, are you a morning guy or do you stay up late? Like, does that affect your creativity too when you're writing stuff?
Well, it's hard because, I'm out when I'm in LA, I'm out doing shows,
Mm.
maybe 3 or 4 nights a week. I go out and do shows, and sometimes I don't get home until midnight or 1 in the morning. And then my wife will wake up. She sleeps later than me. She goes to bed at a reasonable hour, and somehow I'm the guy that's up. I used to sleep late till 10, 10:30, and now I'm up at like 7:38.
Ooh.
And I get up, I meditate, I look at the news, have some coffee, and then I make her tea, and I bring her tea in bed,
Wow.
and then I generally throw a move on her, and then she shuts me down, and then I go inside and I look at more news.
Well, you spoke about coffee there. So, I've seen you in some of your interviews. You have coffee. So, are you a
Yeah.
Starbucks guy or where do you go?
I don't love Starbucks. I like little indie coffee shops, but I'm not a
Mm.
coffee snob. I will go into a gas station. I have my coffee at 8 a.m., at noon, and at 3 o'clock. Like within 5 minutes of those times, I have my coffee every day because I'm an alcoholic and I quit drinking 34 years ago, and coffee has replaced alcohol for
Oh,
me.
okay. Well, the only thing I don't like about drinking coffee now is all the tipping that's involved. Like, I feel guilty if I
Yeah.
don't do it. So, I don't
Right.
know. It kind of gets me worked up sometimes.
It is weird that we tip somebody that turns around, pours a coffee, and hands it to you. Meanwhile, I used to think about teachers that make like 34 grand a year. And how about tipping them? How about the
Yeah.
people that like you entrust your child's lives and development to? How about $100 at the end of the semester? Would that
Yeah.
kill you?
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Well, I
How about
do.
firefighters? How about like there's a fire near your house? Go down to the fire and start handing out 20s to all the firemen.
That would be fill the boot. That's a new way to do it.
Yeah.
Well, speaking of your schedule, you're a busy guy, so you're hosting 3 shows, right? So who does all the editing?
There's a company called Mid Coast Media out of
Mm,
St. Louis.
okay.
And so I basically just do the recording, and then it all gets emailed off to St. Louis, and they do the editing and the sound mixing, and then they upload it to the server. You put it on YouTube,
Mm.
cut up videos, put them out on social media. So basically, the only way I could do 3 podcasts if I had a really great company that was able to handle everything else, and they're the best.
Maybe they'll give me a discount now. Say, hey, see, we're plugging you guys.
Oh, they will. Why do you need a producer?
Actually, yeah, I'm a one-man show, so I do it all.
You do.
Yeah, you got to
How
book
long?
everyone, do the interview, do the editing, post on social media. So it's kind of sometimes I feel a little burnt out on stuff. I love doing the interview part though.
How long does it take you to do all the sound mixing and uploading and all that stuff?
Usually it takes me to edit a one interview. It probably takes you like 2-ish hours roughly to get it, because now I gotta edit the video, edit the audio. So it's like you're doing 2 different episodes in a way of touching stuff up, and then I got to do a highlight clip and then post that.
Well, when you say edit the video, are you taking things out of the video?
Yeah, I just try to clean it. Like if I say a lot or stuff, I just make it flow.
Really?
Yeah, so I'm
Look at
very
you. That's very
yeah.
anal.
So it's better than being a drug addict, though, right? I'd rather be addicted to that than something else.
What if I say something like
Like cum?
will you take that out?
No, I'll leave that one. That's a good
Okay.
one. Yeah, no, as long as it's funny and good, I keep it. It's just I like to make everyone sound good. So all the ums and stuff like that, I just clean it up.
So this guy walks into his house one night, and he's got a chicken under his arm. And his wife comes out and he goes, "This is the pig I've been fucking." The wife goes, "That's a chicken." And he goes, "Who's talking to you?"
That's pretty good. That'll keep you married, or maybe not.
Yeah. You got any good jokes?
Not really. I'm trying to think. I've never been a good on the spot joke teller.
Are you a stand-up?
No, I wish. Like I love going to shows, and it makes me
Okay.
feel really creative though when I'm there.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I wish
What
I
club
could do
do
it.
you go to?
Well, I've actually seen you. I was going to ask how the pickup situation from the airport is for the Punchline in San Francisco. So I go there. I've seen you there, and I've actually seen you at the Hollywood Improv and the Comedy Store.
Oh, very cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's an Uber to San Francisco. But that's not bad because there's so many Ubers in San Francisco. You get
Mm,
picked up in 30 seconds.
that is true.
Yeah, and it's an easy drive from the air. I love the drive in from San Francisco. It's so scenic.
Good
I
view.
love
Yeah.
coming through the city, get through Market Square. Market Square is like shut down. There's nothing open anymore.
Yeah, you can hear an echo.
Yeah, yeah, it's bad.
Yeah. Well, since you do a podcast, or since you do three podcasts, you have Childish, Sunday Papers, and Fitz Dog Radio. Are they kind of a reflection of you? Because I've noticed doing this podcast, it's all people that I like or I'm a fan of. So it's kind of interesting when I think of the guest list. It's kind of like a reflection of what I'm into.
Yeah, I mean, very much so. Most of the guests that I have on are friends. A lot of them are very good friends. And then, like today, I've got on Dulce Sloan, who's a correspondent on The Daily Show, and
Oh,
she's
okay.
kind of blowing up right now. She's very talented. So I've had her on once before, but it was on Zoom, and now I'm going to have her on in person.
Nice.
And yeah, I think it's a nice mix of people that I know and like, and then I have a lot of publicists that will come to me and offer me guests.
Mm,
And like that's how I got Dulce, and I get a lot of good guests. I got, Carl Reiner like
mm.
that. I got Brian Wilson from the Beach Boys.
Wow.
Like I've had some amazing guests that came to me through publicists. So that's nice too. But I don't have people on if I don't think they're going to be funny.
Mm. I saw you had Ian Edwards on recently. He's a friend of the show too.
Oh, is he?
Yeah, he was great.
Yeah, Ian's great. We've written on a lot of TV shows together,
Mm.
and we've done a lot of stand up together. There was a night down in Long Beach at the Laugh Factory in Long Beach, and he was on stage and he was kind of wrapping up his set. And then the fire alarm went off. There's like really loud fire alarm. And any other comic would have been like, "All right, ladies and gentlemen, your next guest is Greg Fitzsimmons," and walked off. This dude stayed on stage for 15 minutes while the
Wow.
alarm was going off and talked to the crowd. And then it ended, and then he brought me up. And I was like, that's a friend.
Wow, that's pretty solid right there.
Yeah.
Well, I mentioned how I saw you at the Comedy Store is one of the places I've seen you. I was curious if you remembered this. This is probably about 2 months ago, maybe. I think it was in November. I saw you at the Comedy Store, and there was a lady sleeping in the crowd at her little table. And I thought it was awesome how you handled it. You even predicted it. You said something like, "Did you just fly in from somewhere?" And she had just
Yeah.
flown in from Germany, and she answered you and then put her head down and fell asleep again. That was pretty good.
Yeah, I think that maybe that's how your Yelp reviews go with stand-up comedy is it's not thumbs up, it's just heads down on the table. That's how you're ranked. I've had people, I had a girl one time, I was in Worcester, Massachusetts, and I hadn't been doing comedy that many years. And so I'm on stage and the crowd is totally rowdy, out of control. And there's a woman sitting in the front row and she's asleep. And before the show at this particular club, it was so bad that before the late show Friday, I would walk across the street. They had a place called Cheap Ease Donuts, which I always thought was funny that like, is that how you're marketing your donuts? That they're cheap? All donuts are cheap. How about Goodies donuts?
Yeah.
So that's how down and out Worcester is. So I get a dozen donuts, which I would always do because then I would like hand them out to the crowd and like,
Mm.
get them to calm down. So she's sitting in the front row, she's asleep. And so she's got no table. There's just like the chairs are right up against the stage. So I put a chocolate donut down on her knee. And then she wakes up. Everybody's laughing. She wakes up. She sees the donut. Big woman. She had donuts in her life. And she walks up on stage and she takes the chocolate donut and she slams me in the crotch with it. And I have chocolate all over my crotch. And then the crowd is going crazy. They love it. She sits down. She's a hero. And, and so then she falls asleep again. And then a fight breaks out in the back. And the fight, it was like 12 on 12. It moved. It looked like a mosh pit. It just kept moving around. And then she woke up again and threw up on the stage. This is the greatest show of my life. And I did my time. I did my hour. I did not get off stage.
Don't mess with a BBW.
BBW?
Big Beautiful Woman.
Oh, right.
Sounds like a World Star video.
Sounds like a gay guy saying something like that.
Yeah. Well, when you do crowd work, and like you said, you've had someone sleeping in the past, do you feel like some of your crowd work is because of just your experience and having maybe preset jokes in a way from past experiences?
No, not really.
Because I just wonder how quick you guys are sometimes. Like, it's got to be the best feeling.
It's never pre-planned.
Mm.
I mean, I might do a bit based on something that somebody says in the audience. Like if they say they're from Connecticut, then I have a joke at Connecticut, I might do that joke. But the actual like interplay is always real. That's always real. Yeah.
Well, I was wondering when you do two sets, an early show and a late show, and you have like a really good first show, and I imagine you're probably kind of excited or pumped up. What do you do after that? Do you take notes on what went well, or how do you kind of stay ready for the next show?
That's a good question. I mean, it's kind of hard because stand-up is such a weird beast. You know, it's like it's kind of upon you to walk on stage with the mindset that you're funnier than everybody in the crowd and that you're having a good time. And there's times where you're depressed or maybe you had a great first show and you're almost like full. It's almost like you don't need it now. Like the first show, you need it. You've had the whole day, you thought about material maybe, and you kind of are geared up for the show. And then in between shows, people think the green room at a comedy club is like a barrel of laughs. And like sometimes it is, but a lot of times it's just like me and the feature and the opener looking at our phones and, you know, not really talking. And then your energy just goes way down. And even if you killed, like you kind of go on stage like, I don't need this now. And so you have to find it. Like stand-up is always about finding it. Like, I went on stage. Where the fuck was I? Oh, I was in San Francisco on this last trip. I was there in November. Is that when you came out?
I saw you before November, the time you were when I think it was over the summer, maybe.
Okay, so I'm back. I'm in my hotel room and I'm totally depressed. I have depression, and when it hits me, it's like somebody throwing a 500-pound wet blanket over me, and I can't move. I'm sitting in my hotel room in the dark, just staring at the ground for like an hour and a half. I walk over to the club. I'm in the green room. I'm not talking to anybody. And I'm just going like, I can't fucking do this. I don't know if I can do this. And then I walked on stage and I just told everybody where I was at. I said, I'm just really depressed right now. I don't know how I'm going to get through this show. And they applauded. Like they gave me support. And then I did my first 5 minutes. All my energy came back. All the depression was gone. And I ended up having like the best set I'd had in months. And then I walked off stage and the depression was completely lifted.
Wow. And
I think it worked because I was honest with them. I let them know where I was at. So there was a connection. There was a bond. And if I had just performed a set, it would have sucked. And it was a big lesson to me that night that you learn over and over again in stand-up, which is like, you got to be where you're at when you go on stage.
That's pretty interesting. Glad that San Francisco could help out, though, yeah?
Yeah, they're the best. It's my favorite club in the country.
Oh, really? I do remember you said that now. So that is true? You love the punchline?
Yeah.
That's cool. Well, are you kind of happy that you're at where you're at now in life as opposed to coming up as a comedian now? Because obviously it's not easy to come up as a comedian, but I imagine with all the social media and everyone's kind of hot for 2 minutes and then you got to come up with something else, because it seems like it's a very fast-paced thing now with Instagram and whatnot.
Yeah, I mean, I've failed on that. I mean, I put out clips from my podcast most weeks, not even all the time.
Mm,
And I don't really put out enough stuff on social media for it to make the impact that you need to make these days. So I'm kind of a dinosaur. I'm like a guy that relies on, I got a new special coming out. Like that
mm.
helps a lot.
When does
And
it
just
come out?
I think in March. We're
Okay,
still
cool.
editing right now. And so it's like one of those things where I rely on doing good shows and people coming back. And and that I've been around long enough that most people have heard of me, and the podcasts help bring people in.
Hmm.
But the kind of big crowds that you can get from really working social media, I don't envy comics having to do that. That has
Yeah,
nothing to do with stand-up comedy. It's like you're a marketing executive. I
yeah.
mean, you see the videos some of these comics put out, they're like 5 camera shoots. They cost like $10,000. And they've got a team of editors. And it's like, I played golf today, and I hung out with some friends. I mean, that whole world is so antithetical to comedy. It's such a bummer.
And they have like the fake ivy behind them. They're renting out a studio to do it and all that.
Yeah, right, right.
Well, speaking of someone that's been in the game for a while, I imagine you know him. Had him on the show last year, and he was awesome. Tom Dreesen in his 80s, and he's still getting up and doing it.
Yeah, he still does it. He still looks good.
Yeah.
He looks sharp. He dresses sharp. He's just we do these like charity golf tournaments sometimes. And they'll bring out comedians, and then like they'll put one comedian in each foursome, and then you play golf with them, and there's like a competition for prizes. And then you have dinner, and then after the dinner, each of the comedians gets up and tells one like street joke, like that pig joke that I told. And then they judge it, and then there's a winner, and Tom always wins. His jokes are unbelievable, and they're not even dirty.
Yeah, I want to see him live. I always miss him, but it's kind of neat to see him still popping up every now and then.
Yeah, I don't know if he goes on the road very much. I mean, he opened for Sinatra for like
Yeah.
20.
Yeah, he had some great stories.
Yeah,
Well, when I saw you at the Punchline, I remember you mentioned something about the Rolling Stones. So are you a big Rolling Stones fan, or who are some of your favorite bands?
I'm obsessed with the Stones. I
Mm.
listen to the Stones so often that it's ridiculous. And I'm always going back and listening to some of the early albums that people ignored, or albums like Black and Blue,
Mm.
and you just find some gems on there. But yeah, I've started to get into country music a little bit,
Mm.
which I always hate. I grew up in New York, and like country music was just not on the radar. And so I always kind of had a snobbery about it. I thought it was, just dumb and repetitive. But then I started to get into Chris Stapleton,
Mm. He's good.
Jason Isbell, and Lucinda Williams. And all of a sudden I was getting exposed to like some new stuff, some old stuff, and realizing that some of the great musicianship in all of music is country music. And some of these guys just are so authentic. It's great.
I'm always embarrassed to say, I've said it a few times, I secretly listen to Blake Shelton, and I feel terrible about it. But it's so poppy, and it goes against everything I believe in when it comes to music,
Yeah,
but I sneak
right.
them in sometimes.
What bands do you like?
My top five, Lenny Kravitz is my guy. U2 is number two. Bruce Springsteen, Tom Petty, Red Hot Chili Peppers. Then it's kind of a crapshoot after that. But I dabble in
Lenny
everything.
Kravitz?
Number one, yeah. I just
I
finished his
mean,
audiobook yesterday.
didn't he only have 3 songs?
No, he's got a bunch of them. He's
And
really
one was a
underrated.
cover?
Oh, I'm not a big fan of American Woman, but I'll get into it when it's live.
Yeah.
Um, no, he's got some good stuff. He actually plays all the instruments on the albums, and
Oh.
if you saw him, a lot of people are skeptical like you. Then they see him, and they're usually blown away once they see him live.
Well, he's got a lot of respect in the music, and who am I to make fun of anybody, But like, it's just weird that that's in your top five. I wouldn't think of that. But Bob Dylan's top five had the Charlie Daniels Band in it.
Oh, okay. See, that's a
So
band I know the name, but I've never really listened to him.
Devil Went Down in Georgia.
Oh, okay, yeah, okay.
Yeah.
I've mentioned it here and there, but I actually won a contest right out of high school, and I got to go on tour with Lenny Kravitz for 2 weeks. Became
Oh,
my,
that
yeah,
explains.
but
Well,
he was
there.
my favorite before.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. Wait a minute. What was the contest?
Actually, did you have a MySpace back in the day?
Yeah.
It was a contest on MySpace, and you had to put a little paragraph of why you should win. And I had won a previous contest to see him in LA, and he played some new songs like 2 months before, and he talked about what the Love Revolution is, because that's the album he was promoting. 2 months later, they do this contest, and they say, "Tell us what the Love Revolution is." So I remembered everything he said. So I
Uh,
won, and it was kind of a dream come true. He was actually the nicest guy.
oh, got to meet him.
Yeah, we were with him for 2 weeks and took us out to dinner a few times, and
No.
yeah, I still see him now when he comes to town, so it's pretty cool. It's the gift that keeps
You
giving.
have like a friendship with him?
I can't call him, but I see him when he's at the shows, so it's pretty cool.
Oh my God, that's
Yeah.
hilarious.
Who are your favorite bands though? Because I was listening to the chorus today in your Irish honor.
Yeah. Well, as far as the Irish music goes, yeah, Van Morrison is
Mm,
one of my tops. Sinead O'Connor, U2, the Pogues,
okay.
and the Chieftains. Those are my top 5 Irish bands.
No Thin Lizzy?
Thin Lizzy's from Ireland?
Yeah.
No shit. I didn't
Yeah.
know.
There's a statue of Phil Lynott in Ireland somewhere.
Whoa,
Yeah.
that's amazing. I'm so happy.
Are you messing with me or are you being serious?
No, I had no idea. I really didn't.
I thought you were going to say that. That's why I was waiting.
That's one of those bands that I never knew they're always on classic rock and
Yeah.
always back in town, right?
Yep, yeah.
That's so funny.
Yeah.
Then English bands, I'd have to go with the Stones, Zeppelin, The Who, The Clash, and David Bowie.
Oh, that's a good pick.
American bands, I'm going to go with Red Hot Chili Peppers, Jimi Hendrix, The Talking Heads.
Ooh.
I'll give you Tom Petty and the band.
Oh, there you go. Okay.
Yeah. Australia, I'll go with AC/DC, The Darkness. You ever heard of The Darkness?
No, I don't know them.
They're like a satirical heavy metal band, almost like Spinal Tap. They're like,
okay.
they're kind of like, they kind of make fun of Ace. They're not making fun. They're amazing musicians. I mean, I wouldn't put them on the list if I didn't think that the killer musicians.
Kind of like Steel Panther then. Have you heard of them?
Yeah, a lot like Steel Panther.
Okay.
Right. Steel Panther is a little more over the top, and they're more of a hair band.
Yeah,
But
that's true.
yeah, the Darkness is more of a like an AC/DC kind of a band.
Okay. Well, it makes me wonder too. Were you at the Improv or around when I think Paul McCartney kind of showed up within the year?
I heard that.
That would have been amazing.
I wasn't there that night. I was there the next night, and everybody was still buzzing about it. And then, what's his name? Quentin Tarantino comes into the store a lot. He's seen me a few times, and we've hung out and talked after the show.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Do you get a little nervous if someone like if Paul McCartney was there? Would you be like, "Oh shit"? Or
I think in a good way. I get nervous in a good way. Like it brings out my best performance for sure.
Okay.
Even though I'm totally intimidated, but I've sort of like I talked about before, like wherever you're at before you go on, you have to acknowledge it and not fight it. And then it works for you.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Well, I know you're also a sports guy too. So who are your favorite teams growing up?
Well, I grew up in New York, so it was the Giants, the Rangers, the Mets, and the Knicks. Because in New York you get a choice. Each of those sports has 2 teams. And I lined up with those teams because my father was in radio in New York, AM radio, and those are the teams that his station covered. The games aired on his station, so we got free tickets to every game, and so we used to go to see games a lot, especially the Giants and the Mets, and yeah. But then I got older and I realized like being a sports fan is kind of for children. Like now I watch probably more sports than I used to, but I'm not a fan of any one team. Like I definitely would love it when I've been in LA for 23 years. I love when the Chargers or the Rams does well. I love Kansas City because Mahomes and Kelsey are exciting. I like hot quarterbacks. There's so many rookie guys or guys in their second and third years that are just the future of football right now. It's so exciting to watch them. Justin Herbert is amazing.
Yeah.
And who's the guy in Miami? How do you say his name? Tagovailoa.
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. I'm always insecure about saying it.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. He's really great. It's amazing. So I think it's a lot like men's tennis, where you're seeing Nadal retire and Federer and Djokovic maybe has a couple more years left.
Hmm.
But then you've got these young guys that are coming up that are playing at a whole other level. I mean that one guy, the Spanish guy, he serves the ball like
Yeah.
145 miles an hour. Insane.
Well, you mentioned hot quarterbacks. So were you a Tom Brady guy or?
I feel mixed on Tom Brady. I feel like he's a narcissist and I feel like he's got money issues. Like I think he's too greedy. But I got to play football with him once. I do a lot of work with Best Buddies, which is a group that helps people with intellectual disabilities.
Okay.
So they flew me out to Boston to do this charity bike race where we rode bikes from Boston to Cape Cod. And and Tom Brady has been the face of Best Buddies for like 15 years. He's been amazing with that charity, very involved. So the night before the bike ride, there's a charity touch football game at Harvard Stadium. So we go there, and all the Best Buddies are there. The people with intellectual disabilities are there, and we're in the locker room. And Tom comes in, and he knows all their names, and they're all hugging him, and it's
Wow.
very sweet. And then I meet him, and I immediately fall in love. My heart is pounding. I'm sweating. He's beautiful. He looks right in your eyes. He makes you feel like you're the center of the universe. And then we go out on the field, and we split up into two teams, and I'm on Tom Brady's team. And now we go into the huddle, and Tom's telling each person, he's telling the Best Buddies, like, okay, you just run out straight, you run off to the right, and then I'm looking at him like, and he's like, what are you looking at me for? Just go out. And so after a few plays, I run up the right sideline. I look over my left shoulder. Tom Brady is looking at me. And he takes the ball back from behind his ear and he snaps a tight, lofting spiral. And I put out my arms. It's going to be a basket catch. All I got to do is relax, don't trip, pull the ball in, and I will have caught a ball from Tom Brady. So I reach out, the ball hits my hands. I pull it into my chest. I got it. I caught the pass. Now I got two Best Buddies standing in front of me. I deke him out and I run for a touchdown. And I look back and I just see Tom Brady with his hands over his face. Like, what is the matter with you?
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
So you're 1-for-1 with Tom Brady. That's pretty good.
Yeah, it was pretty sweet. It was pretty sweet. But then I don't know. But then, like during the pandemic, he took like $1 million for his sports merch company.
mm,
He does a lot of shit like that. There's more I won't get into, but
yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
he's got issues.
Well, you mentioned Tom Brady, pro athlete. Your cousin's a pro golfer, right? Denny
Right?
McCarthy.
Danny
So,
McCarthy.
are you a good golfer then, or how does that work?
I should be better. I've been playing since I could walk, and so I'm okay. But I think I have because I have ADHD. It's hard for me to keep my concentration up.
Mm.
I just kind of like I just lose focus, and I can start strong, and then I kind of fade. But I love it. It's just like my happy place.
Mm.
I go out and you're with three other friends and nobody's got their phones out. It's 4 hours of just talking and hanging out and busting
Yeah.
balls and betting. It's great.
Yeah, it is great. I'm trying to get into it myself. And you mentioned being from New York, and you're from Tarrytown, New York, right? And I
Yeah.
looked up some notable people, and you got Mark Twain from there, Vanessa Williams, and Caitlyn Jenner. So you guys are covering all the bases.
Wait, Mark Twain is from Tarrytown, New York?
That's what it said. I don't know if it was a different Mark.
Really?
Yeah, I clicked on the blue thing, and it took me to his page. So yeah.
Wow. You know who else is from Mythbusters?
Mm.
Adam, what's his name?
Okay. Yeah, one of the bearded guys.
He's the bearded guy. Yeah, yeah, yeah. He was in my class.
Oh, okay.
And then who else is from Tarrytown? Maybe that's it. But yeah, Caitlin was a big deal because when she won the Olympics, and I think that was 1976, so I was 10, and they had a parade through town,
Mm.
and she came in and waved at everybody, and it was like it was the I don't know why, but 1976 was a big Olympics. It was one of those ones that really stood out as a big one, and she was the star of it.
Mm.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool. So, what made you do your first open mic, and how did it go? And where was it?
Well, the first time I actually did stand up, I was in high school.
Mm.
It was the senior talent show. So I had grown up going to all the comedy clubs in New York City. I would go to the Comic Strip and the Comedy Cellar, and I was obsessed with stand up. And we used to go down, and me and my friend Frank Moretti, and we'd heckle the comedians. And we were such assholes. We were like 16 years old with fake IDs, getting drunk and heckling like Jerry Seinfeld. And so I always wanted to do it. I had a collection of I had a huge collection of comedy albums. I watched everything comedy on TV. And so my senior year, I went up and I basically did like a Bob Carlin, a George Carlin routine, and then some stuff that I'd written. It was mostly like shitting on the teachers. And so once I started shitting on the teachers, the principal unplugged the microphone from backstage. And so I just put the mic down. I screamed out the rest of my set. And I did do cocaine that night. And I drank tequila. And I got off stage. And I just remember getting off stage. I was backstage. I was jumping up and down and pumping my fist. It was the highest I've ever felt. It was partly it was the cocaine, but like it was really like insane. Like, oh yeah, this is what I want to do. And so then I went to college. And my freshman year, I went out and I did stand up at Stitch's Comedy Club. And it was the night that the Bears lost, that the Patriots lost to the Bears. It was like
Mm.
52-3. It was like the biggest blowout in history. And so I went on stage that night, and it was rough.
So everyone was pissed.
They were pissed. Yeah.
Well, I had Nick Swartzen on a few days ago, and he made an interesting comment. He said, "Stand up doesn't find you; you kind of seek it out." Is that true for you, or?
Um, no, I think it found me because my father was essentially a comedian.
Mm.
You know, he hosted radio, and he used to MC a lot of charity events. So when he would host a charity event, he'd put on a tuxedo. He had notes. He had like, I still have my father's set lists. He
Wow.
died like 30 years ago, but I still have his set lists. And I used to watch him, and I was just like, wow, this is what I want to do. And like his friends were comedians. He belonged to the Friars Club. So he'd bring me to the Friars Club as a kid, and I hang out with like Henny Youngman and Milton Berle and all these old time greats. And it was just a part of my life.
Mm.
So I think it kind of found me.
That's pretty interesting. So, do you feel like that kind of being around those guys helped you maybe with just seeing how they talked and how they carried themselves? Did you pick up on something as a young person?
Yeah, I think I realized that it was a job and
Mm.
that you have to show up to work on time. You have to deliver and not these guys were pros, like guys like that you've never heard of, like Dick Capri and Freddie Roman. Like these were Catskill comedians that used to work the Borscht Belt and the Playboy clubs, and if
Mm.
they got lucky, they got to open for you know Liza Minnelli or Cher or fucking Mel Torme or Tony Bennett. And so they had these great lives, but I realized they were pros and they had to hustle. They were always
Mm.
hustling to get work. And I think it sort of like informed my work ethic a lot.
Hmm. Well, transitioning over to your family really quick, how did you meet your wife, and how long have you been married?
I met her at the Friars Club.
Oh, wow.
Yes. There was a woman that I was friends with that I was introduced. I brought her into the club to join. And so they had like this induction ceremony, and she brought my wife with her, and we met. And I said to my friend, the one that introduced us, I said, that night, I go, I'm going to marry your friend someday.
Mm.
And so 3 years later, I proposed in the Milton Berle room at the Friars Club,
Wow.
and then met up with her and a bunch of other people. at the St. Regis Hotel that night for drinks. And I said to this girl, Sarah, I go, do you remember what I told you the first night I met Erin? And she went, what? I go, you don't remember that I said I was going to marry her? She's like, no, you said that? Like, fuck.
And she said yes.
She said yes. And then I took her to a play on Broadway and went to a French restaurant, went to the St. Regis Hotel, met our friends, and then took her for a carriage ride through the snow through Central Park.
Wow, that's pretty good.
Yeah, threw a move on her, got shut down in the carriage. In the carriage. You think if there's any time you're going to get a hand job under that blanket.
She's not home right now, is she?
Honey! No, she's gone.
Okay. Well, is anything off limits when it comes to being married? Like she doesn't want you to put in bits, or can you kind of throw anything out
She's
there?
never said anything to me, but I respect her too much I would never say anything negative about her. Like,
Okay.
I truly love her, and I feel so lucky every day that I found her. And you know, I guess if you don't like your wife, you can talk about her like that on stage, but I would never demean her by doing that.
And you have two kids, right? So do they think you're funny? And I think, are they in college now or right around there?
One graduated and
Hmm.
one's still in. And yes, they think I'm funny, but they don't respect me.
Do they want to get into entertainment, or are they kind of staying away from that?
My son's done some PA work, and my daughter now is interested in doing some production work.
Okay.
But he was a communications major, so in theory, he might go into something broadcasting or whatever. But he's in Central America for 5 months right now.
Oh,
He's like traveling around Guatemala and Mexico, a couple other countries.
wow.
Yeah.
Well, speaking of where he's at, like going on vacation and stuff, you took a trip to Ireland, right, with your family? And
Yes.
I was wondering how that went because I heard it was like an 8-room house. And did you break out the Jameson or?
Well, I don't drink. Everybody in my family drank a tremendous amount, and it was a really fun trip. It was like it's funny because my kids are Irish and they felt it. Like they went over there and they were immediately like kind of struck by how much they connected with the people
Mm,
and the land, and it was really kind of powerful for them because we've traveled to a lot of places and they never felt like that before.
mm. So when it comes to writing, I was curious, are there any comedians that are like resistive to that part and they just want to do the stand up? Like it made me kind of think of being a sports fan, and sometimes baseball fans are anti analytics. Like, are there some comedians that are anti writing and they just want to be on stage type thing?
Yeah, I mean, there's guys that totally freestyle and women that freestyle. Judy Gold. I mean, you mix the material in, but a lot of them, Andy Kindler or Todd Glass,
Mm,
Eddie Pepitone, they kind of have a direction, but they're very loose and
mm,
they involve the audience. They involve saying out loud what's going through their mind at any moment. Todd Barry is obviously great at
mm,
crowd, but he's also got great material. But I think then you got guys that Brian Regan doesn't want
mm.
the audience to say a word and doesn't interact with them and has a very locked down act. And he's, one of the best comedians in the country for years. So yeah, it's different with everybody. I definitely have a mix. I like to have material, but I like to talk to the crowd and
Mm.
kind of be in the moment also.
Okay. Well, one of the shows that you've been a part of that was kind of on the TV a lot of my childhood was I Love the 70s, 80s,
Oh
those
yeah,
shows. So,
right.
was that a lot of fun to do, I imagine? Is there any, I guess we're getting to the 2020s now, so is that ever going to be a thing? It doesn't flow as well as I Love the 80s, like getting 2020 in the title, but.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it was fun to do. It was very weird because it was such a cable gig. Like I never had a contract. I did it for like 5 years. And literally every Thursday they would call me and be like, so you want to do it next week? And I'd be like, yeah. And they go, what day do you want? Tuesday. You mean the same time I come in every week? Yeah, same time. Okay, great. And I got $500. It was like shit money. And I had to write. They'd send you all the material like the day before, And like not material, they give you topics. And then you had to come up with jokes on like 30 topics. And then you'd sit there for like 2 hours and they'd record you. And it was like fucking exhausting, but it was also really fun. And I ended up, having a lot of material for my act through doing it. And it was great exposure. And they always put your name up on the screen when you were up there. So it was really kind of great exposure.
Yeah. It almost sounds like the Jeopardy study guide, here's know everything.
Right.
Well, are you excited about any upcoming comics right now? Because someone that I really love, I've seen her at the Comedy Store, and I think you've even toured with her a little bit. Jet Ski Johnson's a name that pops out for me.
Jet Ski's great. Yeah, she's fun. She's out with Bobby Lee and Andrew Santino a lot. There's a bunch of comics that have been passed into. She just got passed into the Comedy Store.
Yeah,
she worked there at the door, and then she passed in. That was exciting. Yeah, there's a lot of young people that I really like. There's a guy named CJ Melanin. I don't know. I got him opening for me in San Diego next month.
Cool.
I bring people on the road with me. Dion Curry out of Indianapolis is really good.
Okay.
Not enough people know him. Erica Rhodes is really great. I don't know.
I love her. Yeah.
Yeah, she's fun. She used to feature for me a lot until she started headlining, and now she doesn't feature for me anymore. Yeah, the store always has a lot of good young comics.
Okay. Yeah, I don't know why Erica Rhodes isn't bigger. Like, she's hilarious.
I know. I say that to her every time I interview her. I'm like, what's going on?
Yeah. Well, Greg, you mentioned having a special coming out in March. Is there any other future projects we can kind of keep our eyes out for?
Well, I'm on a game show right now on the Game Show Network called Blank Slate. It just started airing this week.
Okay.
So you can check out episodes of that on the Game Show Network. And then what else? The special, the podcasts. And then I'm working on a script right now that we're going to go out and pitch, a sitcom script. So hopefully something happens with that. And then lots of tour dates coming up. I'll be in San Diego and Tampa and Atlanta this week. So go to fitzdog.com and get some tickets.
Yeah, I'll put the links in the bio. And Greg, thanks for coming on the show. I'm a big fan, so it's been kind of full circle to see you in person and now have you on the podcast. So thanks for coming on.
Thanks for having me. It was a pleasure.